Hello everybody and welcome along back to the semi-final between John Higgins and Stephen Maguire. And after a little cameo of Stephen, we do hope to see a lot more of him in the second session here, as he now trails to John Higgins by a scoreline of 6 frames to 2. Of course, he had a little bit of a horror show for him after the first 6 frames, but managed to overcome that struggle of being whitewashed. Of course, celebrated that frame as if he won the World Championship title. Of course, seeing the funny side of it at that time, but managed to get the 8th frame on the board as well, which ultimately still could be a very important factor out there, especially if he is to return to the second session on top of John Higgins and try and climb a couple of frames there to himself, force the scoreline to be a bit more respective there, and all of a sudden, from 6-0, it could turn into 6-3 or even 6-4. It's going to be a perfect start there for Stephen. But if you talk about John Higgins, I mean, he's done all the damage earlier on there against Maguire. And the Wizard certainly will be hoping to have a few more magic left in his hats, as he now tries to produce the best snooker of the season and get himself into another ranking event final. There's certainly warm welcome there in between the two players, and we're ready to get started. It's going to be the break-off shot by Stephen Maguire. And let's get this party started indeed. Is it going to be party for Maguire though, or is it going to be celebration cut short for him, as potentially John Higgins will be the player that is actually going to play against Weezer out there. And hello Get hello Kevin, nice to see you all in the chat already. And Higgins playing well. I mean, he certainly is. As I say, I wouldn't really be too harsh on Maguire. I think he's had his chances there or thereabouts, but I think the scoreline of 5 frames to 3 probably was the best outcome there for him. And of course, when he goes 6-0 down, he's done pretty well there to win the last couple of frames, to still give himself some sort of a chance there going into the second session. Now the breaks of 101, 110 and 97 points there from John Higgins. Sorry, 114 from Stephen Maguire, 101 and 137 from John Higgins' point of view. And you had a break of 97 points as well. And you're going to have, what was it, 3 centuries in 4 frames that we had, with Maguire getting a century on the board on the 7th frame as well for himself. As now, Higgins is having a look to see if he's going to be able to pot the red in towards the left corner with a diagonal shot from the green pocket in towards the left part of the table. The black is going to be available there for him, as will be the pink and the remaining 4 colours as well. So far, of course, that has been an issue for Maguire when he was unable to get himself on towards the black spot for a couple of occasions. Therefore, had to play shots around the blue and therefore risk of running himself out of position a couple of times already, as Higgins refuses to take the red in towards the left corner, so instead plays the safety, tries to get the cue ball in behind the green, and manages to get the white quite close towards the ball cushion there. So decent safety there. And of course the same red that was available to Higgins previously is now going to be available to Stephen Maguire. And he's known for taking these reds on, and so far with my calculations he's had 2 out of 7 in successive long shots. Not quite going to boost that number just yet, because he's going to miss another shot in towards the left corner. So maybe it was the right decision there from John Higgins in sort of refusing that red earlier, and now going to have himself a nice little opportunity to take the red in towards the right middle and try and get himself into a comfortable position at this frame right now. Because at this stage, for the 2 frames that Maguire wins, of course Higgins can afford to just win a frame of his own out there. And of course that 6-0 has turned into 6-2 right now, but if it turns into 7-2, all that work that Maguire managed to do with his century and another 50+ break in the frame number 8, it's going to all come down to nothing if Higgins is going to be able to produce a magnificent break, which is going to get him a 7-2 lead. Right now, after a little bit of hesitation, he goes for that red in towards the red corner, and lovely little shot there by John. Gets himself lined up for the green as well. So starts off exactly the way he started the first session. Lovely shot there on the green, getting the cue ball down the table, but I think he's underplayed that one slightly, and probably going to have the pink in the way of the left-hand side of the table. Therefore, just makes his limited options out there, and maybe he's going to be able to get through to this red in towards the left corner. As referee, will keep an eye on this one. Don't think that's going to be the case, so probably just try and go for the one with a rest shot in towards the right corner. But having the cue ball to be played that way is going to send it in towards the reds, and therefore just makes the shot a bit trickier there for him. So Higgins once again just wants to check to make sure he can try and get through to this red in towards the left corner, because that's going to be more beneficial to him. I mean, if he could, he certainly didn't get anywhere near it because he's played the shot. Didn't even catch the jaws of the pocket there, so missed that one by margin. Cannon the cue ball in towards the black, and therefore not going to leave anything for Maguire that, you know, would stand out pretty quickly to you. And I mean, the straightforward shot would be probably playing a shot in towards the right middle had the cue ball been a bit further up the table, but right now it's exactly on the black ball cushion, so probably take the red that Higgins has missed previously out of the game and just send the cue ball back towards the lower part of the table. Maybe send that red towards the top part of the table and try and get it so that he actually blocks the axis there for Higgins on towards the ball colours and that area of the table. But in the end, he switches the play there, so it sends the cue ball onto the top part of it and just cross doubles the red in towards the main bunch. So straightforward safety there being played, and the first real chance not taken there by Higgins. As I say, some of his biggest strengths in the opening part of the session was the fact that he was so clinical in every single chance that was actually presented to him. So the fact that he's managed to score only 4 of those points on the first time of asking will be a little bit of a positive sign there for Maguire. Because one thing I'll tell you for free, even though I have gone with a scoreline of 9 frames to 6, which I would have had before the first session, and there's no point changing your mind after that sort of 6-0 cushion there to Higgins, because it just makes prediction sort of lose integrity out there. Decent shot by Maguire once again there. Has to make sure that he doesn't leave any easy reds there to try and start off there for Higgins, because his long game has actually been very much on a nice level. Same can't be said about Steven though, and that's going to be another aspect of the game that he has to try and improve. So safety and long pots probably have been the biggest 2 issues that you can point out there from Steven's point of view, because, I mean, when he got a chance, his positional play wasn't the strongest, but the fact that he's got those chances on so few occasions, like, it probably ain't going to be an advantage there in itself. Maguire having a look to see if he's going to be worth taking red in towards the right corner, which has got available to himself. And probably the answer is going to be no on this one. So just little plant of 3 reds to try and push towards the right corner pocket. And he had a look at it previously before taking the shot on, but he still played the shot in the worst possible manner there for himself. So the safety play just being way below average yet again out there for Steven. And there is a clear path for Higgins to try and get the cue ball out of the captivity of all those reds and get it lined up for the pink. With all the safety shots placed since that early break of 4 points there from Higgins. Now the pink spot has become available for sort of pink to go on. Of course, still probably not going to be possible in all of the 4 main pockets that you would usually expect it to go. But right now, it's a nice little pot there from Higgins. He rolls the red nicely, gets the cue ball lined up for the pink. But I think, as I say, majority of those colours are probably going to have to go through blue. Unless he's going to run himself onto the top part of the table, where he'll have 3 ball colours. Greet him with regards. Has to try and re-establish the black on his position as well very shortly. And in terms of the reds that he's got available to his name, probably not going to be shorting those. To be fair, he's got 2, 3... in towards the left corner and probably the same amount in towards the right corner. So I'm not going to be sure on those, as I say. And just has to worry about the position on the black on the next couple of shots. But right now, he's got the way to try and get in behind the pink for the shot in towards the right middle. And had to be straight on this one. Didn't really play that well, because he's not going to be straight at all. And he's going to have the cue ball cannon in towards the reds, which, as I say, was not ideal for him for the simple reason of he ain't got too many reds aimed at the right middle pocket. He only has 1 of them. So therefore, unless he manages to get a lot of the cue action on the white. He's going to have to make this one a very delicate touch on the red and try and get himself a perfect position in towards the right middle. So important shot coming up. Of course, early stages of the frame are going to be important now from Higgins, and play the shot nicely, to be fair, especially if he got himself a red in towards the left corner, because that now frees up the pink to go at least into two of the pockets of the table. Of course, barring the yellow and the green pocket as well. So now available in towards the left corner and right middle, which was the pocket that Higgins has played the shot in previously. So roll the red in towards the left corner this time around. And as I said previously, he was always going to run himself on towards the bold colours inevitably. So this time, I think it's going to be yellow with a little bit of a deep screw. And try and get himself in behind that red for the left middle pocket as one of the options. And the red in towards the left corner being option number 2 there for him. So, as I say, very much similar start to the opening frame where, it looked like Higgins was going to take his time on the short approach, but every single frame he just seemed to improve his form and just get more and more fluent there with his play. Positional play probably been very, very strong there, as has been pot success. Introductions to the chances has been absolutely brilliant, especially if you compare it to Maguire. Higgins will win with one hand tied to his body. Jimmy, well, with a 6-2 lead, might do. But he still is going to need Maguire to be playing quite badly out there. But the problem is, he's got two hands on the table. And, well, not now, but he's got one hand on the cue and one hand on the table. And certainly not any of them tied behind his back. So I think he's got all sorts of benefits there of the current position. Lines himself up a bit awkward on the blue, though. So maybe try and play it in towards the right middle. Not going to be an ideal solution. So after playing the yellow on the previous occasion, might have to take the green this time around. But he's actually approaching the shot onto the blue. So he's going to have to be very careful with this one, because he clearly has to go deep onto the cue ball. Try and send it into the left-hand side of the table. And try and get that one lined up for the next shot off the red. And I mean, he's decided to go into the reds and he's played the shot really well. So if that was the plan, he certainly has worked out to perfection, because he managed to get himself a couple of more reds. Ultimately, the slight issue going to be the fact that one of them has gone in towards the black spot. So not going to have the most expensive colours respotted anytime soon, you would think. But ultimately, it's still a nice little start here for Higgins, as he has a little look to see if he's going to be able to go for the red in towards the right corner and still get himself onto a nice colour position. Probably that seems to be the answer with no one here. So, I mean, the shot of playing the red in towards the left corner, as I say, is probably going to be beneficial, because, I mean, realistically, the only other way for you to go for it, as what Higgins has done right now, is go for the black in towards the right corner. And as I said, that was the red that I said was actually on the black ball spot. So, of course, when you pot it, you're going to free up the black spot. And now you can just try and build all the momentum that you're going to need for a lead of 70 points or so to make sure that Higgins is going to be away into the opening frame nicely. As he has a little look to see if he's going to go for the black on the next shot. Just has to make sure that he's going to be able to get through to this red. And, well, ideally, it wants a little bit of the angle to have on the black to try and cannon the cue ball in towards the top reds, because he's always going to have one available into the right corner, and just leaves it as a free shot for him to try and cannon the cue ball in towards a couple of more reds. And so he can certainly is approaching the final spot there for him, especially only having 3 frames in between himself and his clash with Wu Yize for the title here at the International Championship. Right now goes for the black into the left corner, and can try and make this one the shot that is actually going to free up a couple of more reds. Played the shot really nicely, and in the end, even if he has got 2 reds in the way of each other into the right corner, the second one that he managed to free up is certainly going to be available to him into the right middle pocket there for him. So it doesn't look to be the case, and just he's going to go for the shot into the right corner anyway, which of course would have been the plan from the get-go. And it's now a break of 40 points there from Higgins. So, he had 2 chances. One was, of course, only a break of 4 points where the red and green were spotted. Ronnie himself slightly awkward on the next red and missed the rest shot. Ultimately, Maguire wasn't able to take anything. Try and get himself into a safety battle, which saw him leave a red there from Higgins. And the rest seems to be a break of 47 points and counting. Once again, leaves himself with a bit awkward positional sense there. So the cue ball has to be sending towards the pink, which is going to make the position on the next colour a bit tricky there for him. So maybe just a little bit of a, well, not a little bit, a lot of screw back and try and get the cue ball onto the top side of the blue. I think that's going to be the aim for him. And with the approach that Higgins is taking, probably is going to be the way that he plays his shot. And, I mean, he's played a different way. He's managed to actually go really deep into the cue ball that way, that he just took all the pace of it and got it past the pink at that time, which has actually allowed him to play for the blacking towards the left corner. So now approaching that frame bow area with great pace right now, John Higgins. Can try and go for the blacking towards the left corner right now. And, well, once again, have got a couple of sort of backspin shots on him to try and get in behind reds, either for left middle or left corner out there. Gets the black in nicely. Plays the red in towards the left middle right now. And let's see if he's going to be able to stun the cue ball for the shot at the pink. And try and get that one lined up in towards the left corner, which he has played nicely once again out there, which of course makes it the next red that John Higgins will be able to pot, the one that is actually going to get him the frame win, and leaves Stephen Maguire needing at least 2 snookers at this stage, because it is going to be a 66-point advantage. Of course, the next red is going to be 67 points with only 59 on the table, so 2 snookers to tie. And as I say, there's still no sign of John Higgins slowing down here, as he tries to have the approach, which is actually going to get him over the line as soon as possible. And I mean, once again, he can't really say an awful lot about Stephen Maguire. You know, he's played one bad safety, and in the end, it seems to have lost him the frame here, leaving that red very close towards the right corner. Now, Higgins enjoys snooker, meaning dangerous to others, too much for most. Well, let's see if it's going to be too much for Stephen Maguire first. I wouldn't really go as far as saying that he has to challenge Wuyiza, because he's not there yet. And he needs 2 more frames to be in that ranking event final once again out there. As I say, certainly the return of the champion that has managed to have a few ranking wins last season, quite late. You know, the one against Joe O'Connor beating Zach Zivity in the semi-final probably is the one that stands most to me, simply for the comeback that he managed to produce. And, you know, basically being the only remaining high seed in the late stage of the tournament, was able to come through all the struggles and get himself another ranking event title. Right now, it's a break of 85 points here for him, as he gets himself lined up for the red in towards the left corner, plays it nicely and gets himself lined up for the pink. So the break of sort of 93 points right now, so still needs this red to go in towards the left corner, but I think he's landed very straight on it, therefore has to play with power. So even though we only need 2 more shots for a century break, this could be a struggle there from Higgins. Let's see if he's going to be able to get the red in. No, he's not. So unfortunately, not quite a century break, but once again, as it was, a break of 97 points, and now 93 is going to be added to the breaks of 101 and 137. So 4 90-plus breaks from John Higgins means now that he is 2 frames away from the clash with Wuyiza. It is now John Higgins 7, Stephen Maguire 2, and back to square one we go there, and it's still mission impossible once again there from Maguire. GG Higgins fans dancing again. Well, yeah, not really much to say, to be fair, because, you know, you say it's never over until it actually is over, but at this stage, I mean, realistically, you need Higgins to lose 7 frames in the next 8, which, let's be fair, with the most consistent player on tour, probably isn't going to happen unless, I mean, something shocking happens. It doesn't even have to be a miracle right now from Maguire. It has to be something shocking. And a negative point of view from John Higgins. And I think it all comes down to when, not if, we're going to see John Higgins up against Wuyiza in the final. And of course, best of 17 frames. We've needed, 15 frames yesterday, with Zhao Xington winning 6 against Wu Yize. That has managed to claim his 9th on the 15th time of asking. And well, right now, it does look like it is going to be a scoreline of 9 frames to 3, 9 frames to 4 in favour of John Higgins, to say, sort of, to be generous there to Maguire, especially if you say that for 7 wins that Higgins managed to produce, Maguire only to 2 of them. And I like Maguire playing, but coming up against the Higgins company, yeah, as I say, I mean, if you talk about head-to-head now, and the form that Higgins has actually managed to cover into this tournament, I mean, has he not lost 2 matches in sort of like the last 15 or something? Because I know he lost 1 to Trump, and I think his next one that he lost was to McGill. Yeah, so he literally is coming into this match with a winning streak of 5, 4, 13 in 15 matches. So he's won 13 matches in 15 that he's played, losing 1 of them to Anthony McGill in a semi-final, and losing another one to Trump in the quarter-final. So, I mean, that is actually incredible when you think about it. It does look like it's going to be 14 out of 16. And of course, talk about 14 and 13. I remember their head-to-head has been always very close there in between the 2 of them. And Higgins is about to go 2 away there once again, because before this match has started, it was 14-13 in favour of John Higgins. And he's only 2 frames away from making that 15-13 in his favour. Yes, Higgins has a trophy soon, I think. Well, if you think tomorrow is soon, that certainly could be the case. And I think it's going to be a 50 chance there. Certainly experience against youth. And if he gets himself playing like this, I don't think Wu Yize is going to have a lot to say. Because one thing that, you know, is different from a semi-final clash to a final is there's going to be an infinite amount of pressure there for Wu Yize to try and chase his first ranking event title. He was there against Li Beifan at the Scottish Open. He was there against Neil Robertson last year at the English Open. So it was very much the prince of the Home Nation Series last year. Is he going to be the king of China and the International Championship this year, though? It's an early safety battle in between the 2 players to try and get themselves into. Maguire just having a look to see if he's going to be able to do the similar sort of thing that actually cost him the opening frame of the second session, and play the Reds in towards the right corner, which of course he was checking in, before that shot anyway, but he went for it, and the outcome of it was quite disastrous there in the end from Stephen. And yeah, plays his shot a lot thinner on the edge, but still, I mean, because he's played it so thin, he's going to have the cue ball bounced away from the cushion, and if the blue is not blocking this red, I mean, it's not like Higgins is losing by 5 frames to 0. He has to just try and take his chances now, and more often than not, he's certainly going to make them. Another long shot for him to be a tempting chance now. And once again, getting the cue ball onto the lower part of the table. Black is available. He's got so many reds available there to him as well. When I say so many, he's probably got 4 to his name after this one. Plays the shot beautifully once again out there. You certainly have compilation of John Higgins' shots from the long range. Once again, beautiful. No power at all, by the way. And, of course, not being scared of table fading the cue ball away. Playing the shot perfectly. Getting himself lined up. Very straight on the black, though. So had to go for the top spin shot. And managed to recover brilliantly out there. Yes, Higgins will put Wu under pressure. Not give much if he wins today. I think it's going to be an interesting match. And I think it could be one of those things, as I always say, when you play really well in the semi-final, you can always struggle in the final. Hasn't worked out quite like that in the sort of Jack Lisowski against Trump match, because it was an absolute classic. But it has worked out against Sean Murphy in that Xi'an Grand Prix. It has worked out against Anthony McGill, against Sean Murphy out there. And you could say the same about Gary Wilson at the Wuhan Open. RonnieOSullivan making 2 maximums at the semi-final as well. And ultimately was 7-2 down to Neil Robertson. And ultimately lost the decider as well. Ali Carter against Karen Wilson at the Shanghai Masters. Ooh, there. Higgins was a bit close on that red, catching the front jaw. Still managed to drop this one in. Gets himself lined up for the 3rd black here. And he's going to have 2 more reds available by my calculations. Both of them in towards the left corner. One that is going to be taken from the bunch, and the other one played along the cushion. So 24 points right now is the advantage for Higgins. Still 123 on the table. And I mean, this is going to be a nice little chance there to try and potentially get the cue ball on towards the black here. And he's managed to get himself 2 more reds into available play. He's got one of them very close towards the middle, which of course was very close to dropping, but in the end wouldn't have been a foul shot anyway, because he was playing for the black. Therefore was playing and attempting to pot a red there, so you are allowed to pot 2 reds at the same time. But this time, of course, because he had little control of the cue ball, he's got a lot of distance there between the white and the black, but manages to recover brilliantly out there. And once again, I will say that, you know, when Higgins had those minor little issues, I wouldn't say that his positional play has been dreadful and he was running himself out of position all the time, but he had those little shots that when he needed himself to get out of trouble. Maguire also had those shots, but another factor that Maguire was actually missing them or playing a safety shot, which, you know, you can understand him do, especially when he's not playing too well. But Higgins just seems to click into a gear of, you know, running myself a bit out of position out there, and what I have to do is step up my game for the next couple of shots and make sure get myself out of trouble. Well, he has to do it once again out there, because he has to play the cue ball in towards the main bunch of reds. Not this time around though, because it is going to be a decent effort, but just like he was on one of the previous occasions, he's got one of those reds that absorbed all the power from the pink, and therefore has the cue ball pretty much glued to them. And safety it is going to be there, it would seem, for John Higgins. 38 points is the amount that is the number that he managed to score in frame number 10. Let's see if he's going to be the first part of maybe 2 or 3 out there for him. Plays the cue ball away from the main pack and has that one resting perfectly onto the ball cushion. So 38 points advantage out of 40 that he could have scored at that time. Of course, still putting the black out of position with the previous cannoning towards the reds. Don't think it was intentional, but you certainly will take that right now. Although, apart from the black, I wouldn't really say that it's a problem position if Maguire gets himself a nice little chance, which he might be looking for right now, with pretty much an identical red to the one he's missed early in the sort of frame number 9. And he's played that one a lot more power, and you certainly feel like it could be go hard or go home time. And for now, it is turning into go home quick time for Stephen Maguire, because a couple of more shots like that and he could be out of the tournament without second invitation out there. It's another chance given away to Higgins. Clearly felt like there was a chance waiting there for him, but didn't get anywhere near to potting the red. And even though he got the cue ball in towards the top part of the table, with the reds spreading out across the table, it's still going to be a nice little invitation for Higgins to try and take the red in towards the green pocket. And those sort of invitations are the ones that are always going to be taken there by John Higgins. Peter Young was at 9-3 or 9-4. At this stage, you have to say 9-2. I don't really see Maguire winning that frame. And it took him 6 frames to win the first one in the first session. I think it could be the same issue. And, you know, you're not going to require Higgins to win 6 frames. You're going to require him to only to win 3 of those. Can't get my words out. And he already managed to do it on one occasion. Now has got a 39 points of a gap to himself as he takes the brown spot. So obviously we'll have the brown for at least one more occasion on the black spot here. And at this stage, of course, if I was to change my prediction entirely, it will be 9-2 to Higgins. Well, don't really think there's a surprise out there. I just think that Maguire is still yet to score a realistic point in the second session. Therefore, you know, Higgins had a break of 93 in the previous frame. Had a break of sort of 40 points in this one already. A little bit less than that, to be fair. And now he's going to accelerate off into the distance for an 8-2 lead once again out there. So he's got the approach of a true champion. And let's see if, of course, all of those frames are going to count there for him, because the less time you have to spend, the less table time you have to spend, he would have had the entire day off yesterday to try and recover and get himself ready for the semi-final. And ultimately, that's exactly the thing that Weeze is currently doing. Of course, making sure, I think, watching his semi-final, studying the game there, and well, for now, he certainly will be preparing to face John Higgins in the final. Stephen Maguire given up, hope not. Well, I would say yes, to be honest with you. I wouldn't say he's given up. That's the wrong way to actually take it. But I think he has gone into that rhythm where I'm going to take this red and I'm going to be on the black, or I'm just going to give a frame away. Because that's the approach that he's taken. Right? You can understand it. As I say, I don't think that was the approach in the first frame. But when you're 7-2 down, I mean, there's not a lot more you can actually do about it, because you're not going to outplay Higgins in 7 frames out of 8, which is the task for him right now. So therefore, he just has to play his own game and forget that he's up against someone. Sometimes it will work, but majority of the time it won't. But that's why it was so essential there for Higgins to try and get that early gap of even 3 frames to nil. Felt very important, but when he managed to double it and make it a scoreline of 6 frames to nil, it was always going to be game over at some stage for Stephen Maguire, unless, as I say, something miraculous was going to happen. He managed to do sort of 30% of the miracle by winning 2 frames on the bounce, getting himself a sort of respective scoreline of 6 frames to 2. But he was always going to come down to nothing if he was going to lose the opening frame of the second session, which of course was the case. And right now, it's the blue to take against 67 points clear with 67 on the table. And therefore, the next red, which is going to be played along the black ball cushion, is going to be the one that gets Higgins within 1 frame away of winning this match and taking it to Wu Yize. Of course, in the International Championship, the crowd is certainly going to be cheering for the player of their nation. But I still think that Higgins ain't going to be short on support. If he manages to take this red in, he'll be only 1 frame away from doing that. And he hasn't quite managed it. So 67 points is the gap. 67 on the table, but remember that the black is currently out of position out there. But of course the problem is, because Higgins has missed that red, left it in the pocket, therefore he's going to have a sort of available situation there to himself to try and get the cue ball on towards the black. And I mean, I say that, he clearly didn't have that chance, because otherwise it would have been a lot closer to the black ball. And I think realistically he has to hope there that the black is going to be perfectly on the black ball cushion, because I mean there's an awful lot of distance in between the cue ball and black. And of course, if Maguire misses this one, it certainly is going to be the frame to his opponent. Not quite yet though. Nice little pot, and very important one for him, of course. I mean, it'll be a miracle if we get a respot black after this one. But ultimately, we've seen a couple of those throughout this tournament campaign. Could we see another one quite late in the semi-final here? Maguire has to go for the red along the cushion right now if he wants to continue the break. And, well, once again now, 6 colours apart from the yellow, all in the spots, with yellow still being very much in play. And Maguire was having a look to see if he's going to have to go for an extension shot. In the end, couldn't quite work out there for him. Still going to be awkward there in playing this red, because he can't really place the rest properly now. And of course makes the shot missable. And as I say, any red or any colour that Maguire misses is going to be frame over there for him. And does seem like it's going to be this time around. And probably, frame considered out there, he's doing a little bit of this. So I think he's clearly in the dancing mood, because that is a little bit of a crush out there. GG's frame certainly is. Certainly is GG's frame. GG's match to an extent. 8-2, you're not coming back from this. And also you're not coming back from being 60 points down with 51 on the table. Especially against a consistent man like John Higgins. But like I say, you know, we've been treated to so many epic semi-finals that one of them was always going to be quite a confident win there. Didn't actually expect it to be so confident. I mean, if it is going to be winning the frame, if Higgins manages to drop this red, and he certainly will. Of course, Maguire would not have expected him to actually miss this one, and Higgins will still have position on the black to ensure that it's the last that we've seen of Stephen Maguire in this frame, at least, maybe in the entire match out there. Yes, against Higgins, nearly impossible. The best come back at all time. Really? Well, probably, but as I say, I'm not really going to care more than sort of 100% about it, because it won't be the greatest comeback of all time for a reason, because it will never happen unless, as I say, you'll need realistically you need something happen to Higgins' game to an extent that was never seen previously on a snooker table, and therefore let's just hope that it's not actually going to happen, because of course that will mean that something seriously has gone wrong there with Higgins. But in the end, nothing has gone wrong for him in the frames number 9 and 10, and all of a sudden he's only one away of getting over the line. And usually you have to say it takes players a couple of frames to get over the line in the sort of those semi-final, quarter-final stages, as he did for Wu Yize yesterday when he was leading by 8 frames to 4. Zhao Xingtong managed to take 2 frames out of his Chinese compatriot until Wu eventually got over the line. That can happen, well, can't really, in my point of view. But let's see what's going to happen here. And I still think it is going to be 9-2. I think Maguire is not going to change his approach. And even though it is going to be potentially the last frame that he features, I think he's not really going to be one of those players that he's going to try and grind out the time there for him, and just going to try and put all the effort that he can, obviously, but still not going to take it to absurd level. So if there's going to be a chance presented to Maguire, he says that he'll go for it. Just the question is, is he going to take it? Because as far as my math is correct, if we go to intermission, it has to be with a scoreline of 8 frames to 4. Therefore, it would require Maguire to win both of these frames. Higgins will find it'll be interesting. Yeah, it will be. As I say, he's going to be youth against experience, and probably one of the most exciting finals that we're going to have this season for me. Certainly, the Lizowski against Trump was brilliant. Neil Robertson against O'Sullivan was by far the best and the biggest. And you probably have to throw Shaun Murphy against Mark Williams. Although disappointed from the sort of outside point of view before the match started, certainly thought it was an absolute waste to put it on a Monday. But of course, it was the decision of the Xi'an Grand Prix organisers. But this certainly is going to be the third, probably, most anticipated one for me. If you count out Mark Williams against Shaun Murphy, I don't think it's going to challenge the two giants of Neil Robertson against sort of RonnieOSullivan. And of course, the sort of maiden ranking event story for Jack Lisowski against Jock Trump. And the repeat of a couple of their previous finals was certainly a great entertainment there for the fans. And of course, both of these two that I mentioned have gone the distance. Let's see if there's going to be the case tomorrow. For now, potentially the last break off there for Stephen Maguire. Certainly this in this mini session, I should say, until the 15 minutes of break. Let's see if John Higgins is going to need his break off for one more time until he reaches the final stage. Because right now, it seems to have a red available for him in towards the right corner. And, it wouldn't be John Higgins if he hasn't played at least one safety there to his name. Final best of how many frames? First to 10, so best of 19. So one improvement on this one. I think that's, as I say, for me, that's the way sort of high ranking event finals like the Triple Crown events, like Masters, like UK Championship should be all about. You should have Friday for the semi-final number 1. You should have Saturday for semi-final number 2. Play those first to 9 and then play final first to 10 on Sunday. I think it's just going to be a bit more entertaining because, as I say, I never understand that. When you have the Judgment Day and all this stuff in the UK Championship, it's different for the World Championship, to be fair, because it does go up as you lead into the quarterfinal and the semi-final stage. But, when you play UK Championship, you play the first round, first to 6 frames. I just think it's a bit weird when you go into the semi-final. So you've come through, 6-7 matches that you've managed to win, and you still play first to 6 frames for you to become the finalist out there. Talk about the finalist. Higgins has got a red available. This one he ain't going to turn down, and this one he ain't going to miss. Brilliant shot once again out there, and you have to run yourself out of superlatives if you're going to try and describe the way that John Higgins has been performing so far today, and probably for the majority of the week anyway. Brilliant pot yet again now for him. Let's see if he's going to try and send the cue ball in towards the majority of the reds right here, right now, or he's going to try and bide his time here. I still think he's got a couple of those available to his name. as he gets himself lined up for the one in towards the right middle. Whatever the reason is, the blue hasn't been counting, now it has been. Right, the red in towards the left middle or the right corner. Let's see if it's going to be an easy shot selection there for him. Barry Hearn changed a lot with long games being cut down. Well, maybe. It's one of those things that I can't really comment on. But as I say, black available in towards the left corner. And right now, I mean, this position probably wouldn't be the one that gets Higgins to win in the frame, but it's the absolutely blueprint, and it's a perfect template for him to try and get sort of 40-50 points ahead of Stephen Maguire, which probably going to leave him with 2, maybe 3 shots to actually play left out in the semi-final stage until he's going to be knocked out. And of course, he'll be back in the Champion of Champions out there. Stephen Aces by Maguire. And, well, the positives for Maguire fans is going to be, he said the same about Ronnie when he was 5-3 down, and Ronnie was able to force a decider. Still think Maguire's going to be anywhere near that stage, but maybe game over. Probably, to be fair, if you take sort of all the funny side out of it and you think about it in a serious way. Higgins on fire. And, yeah, I think Maguire will have to call the fire brigade after this one, because I think he'll have some severe burns after shaking hands with Higgins for so many times. Been absolutely fantastic play out there by Higgins. Will for the title. Let's see. If you ask me who's going to win out of the two of them, I'm probably going to answer tomorrow. And when the match is actually finished, I certainly can answer you. But until it started, we've got now half a frame to think about it right now, with Higgins having himself lined up for the blue. And perfectly on the top side of it, in towards the right middle. I would probably go for Higgins to take it for the simple experience phase. And I wouldn't really say it's because he's played so well against Maguire, because I don't think Maguire's helped himself. And also, you can't really criticise Wu Yiza for playing badly in the tournament. And a bit of a bad shot there from Higgins. He tried to cannon the cue ball in towards the Reds. In the end, had 2 of those bounce in towards the right-hand rail, and he's going to go for a double, and that's why I'm going to go for John Higgins to win the tournament, because if he plays like this, he's going to be unstoppable. I'm only joking about this. I know that Wu Yiza has played brilliantly and managed to defeat Watchalong, Barry Hawkins, and the world champion and the crowd favourite Zhao Xingtong. But 3 doubles right now from John Higgins' point of view, and what an absolute beauty they have been. And certainly does seem to be the shot that is actually going to win certainly the heart of the Scottish fans towards John Higgins' point of view, but also seems to be the shot that actually takes him over the line here. Already 35 points of a gap. Seems to be counting. Finally, his best of 19. And it'll be a great final. It certainly is, as I say. It certainly is going to be that one. And as I say, I think, you know, if you take Wu as the favourite, if you take Higgins as the favourite, I certainly don't think it's going to be the final that is going to be over in one session. I certainly think that it's not going to be over in sort of 3 mini sessions out there, because I think you need at least 15, maybe 16 frames, to say the least, out there to actually realise on who one of them is going to be the winner and lift the title, of course. Is it going to be the maiden for Wu Yiza? And I think probably the crowd are going to play some part of it if it was someone that was a bit less experienced than John Higgins is. And as I say, barring Mark Williams, I think he's one of the best players that comes with when it comes to dealing with pressure. I mean, you have to think about that sort of incredible World Championship match against Sal Guron or Mark Allen. Both of them have been deciders, but both of them have been won by John Higgins. And his respective opponents have actually said there to him that he's played so well and he was absolutely unstoppable. And you couldn't actually believe it, the way that he was approaching those shots, like it was a practice table for him. And yeah, looking to see if he's actually run himself out of position now. So goes down for the shot twice then, backs down every single time of it. There is a double though, John. I think you'll know that better than me. But there is a double available in towards the left middle. He's had 3 of those already. And let's see if it's going to be one more, which we're about to witness out there. Not this time around, as he goes for a rest shot in towards the right corner. So has to just have the cue ball, navigate his way through as he drops the red in perfectly. And ball colours are going to be there for him. Recloth table for final, I think so. Certainly haven't really heard anything negative from sort of anyone on the tour about the pockets. And they did look like they were a bit more forgiving at the early stages, but it was more a bit of the fact that Belfast ones were quite deadly, and therefore you just have got the little contrast there in between their pockets in the International Championship and the one that they've had in the second Home Nation tournament at Belfast. Once again, another beautiful shot there by Higgins, running himself a bit wide on the blue, but ultimately having all of those reds spread out. And now, I mean, I've got absolutely no idea how he manages to play those shots with such control there and such power. But right now, he's going to try and get the blue in with a perfect manner to himself in towards the left middle and play the shot really nicely. Now, he's got 75 points on the table there to himself, with 56 points is the advantage. I mean, has Stephen Maguire actually scored a point now in this second session? I think he scored 8 until he missed the red in towards the left corner out there, but I don't think he's going to score any more than that. Higgins floating to win it. Like, I mean, he's absolutely flying towards the finish line. Nothing can stop him right now, apart from something incredible. But we've said that throughout the majority of the semi-final, ever since that 3-0 of a gap, which was extended to 6 frames to nil, and now it is the match ball for John Higgins. Roll the red in, and you are going to be the finalist. And what a surprise! He's done it from the first time of asking. Brilliant John Higgins, and final bounce. What a showdown we've got in our hands. Youth against experience. China versus Scotland. The Wizard versus the Hurricane. And it's Wu Yize against John Higgins out there, as he rolls another red there to ensure that Maguire's not going to be coming back to the table. And commiserations to him. As I say, he's been up against the very best out there. You have to say, the likes of Si Jiawei and sort of, I think it was Mark Selby on the previous occasions, have all been destroyed by Higgins already earlier in this sort of year. But what a form this man is coming into towards the final. As I say, managed to win 14 out of his last 16 matches right now. And can he make it 15 out of 17 tomorrow? Certainly make it the most important one of this calendar year. And it certainly is good game for Higgins. And it's a little break of 84 points right now for him. Higgins Offspring rolls great. Well, as I say, it's going to be a great entertainment for the fans. Certainly would have had that with Stephen Maguire anyway. It's not going to be a century break, but ultimately it is going to be John Higgins in the final. And certainly very warm words will be said there from Stephen Maguire's point of view. What a match it has been. And John Higgins has managed to do it in a very quick fashion for himself. Certainly great performance there for him. And it's now Higgins that will march on in towards the final meeting with Wu Yize. And I mean, very briefly, there's not really a lot to talk about, but that 6 frames to 2 cushion, you thought you needed to see a couple of frames won there earlier on by Maguire. In the end, that wasn't the case. And you have to say, the damage wasn't really done in the first 4 frames. You might have thought that earlier, but it wasn't. The damage was done when he got the draw and he knew that he was going to face the Wizard of the Wishaw, which today turned up in an unbeatable mood and has managed to absolutely destroy Maguire by 9 frames to 2. Great, thanks for covering. Thank you very much for joining in, Kevin, and appreciate the activity in the chat. And yeah, as I say, the first frame was a bit of a one that was matching the one that we've had in the opening session as the opening frame out there, which Higgins has managed to take on from the couple of attempts. 93 points of a break, 7-2 gap, managed to extend it to 8-2 and get himself another break of 60 points or so. And now, from the first time of asking, he hasn't left Maguire any sort of chance. And Stephen has managed to score 8 points in those 3 frames. Probably says it all about how ruthless John Higgins has been. But let's see if he's going to keep that ruthlessness near to him in tomorrow's match against Wu Yize. Certainly, thank you very much for a quick watch now. It has been just over an hour. And let's see all of you in the final. If you want to tune in for the final, feel free to do that. Wu Yize against John Higgins. Experience against Youth. China against Scotland. All to play for the title tomorrow. Speak to you soon.